So you want to be able to identify some constants in this, what do you call it, in these scenarios. Very, very key. But before we start going to the constants, which is just numbers you want to learn, I want you to now be able to link this what do you call it, phase diagram to different interconversions that can happen using that Gibbs free energy. So remember I wrote there earlier, Gibbs free energy is equals to what? It's equals to change in H or change in S. Now, you see, the way you approach this concept in physics is different from the way you approach it in chemistry. Even the way you approach it in thermochemistry is different from the way you approach it in phase diagram. Yeah, now, I want you guys to understand that this change in H is the heat available within the system. Heat available within the system. So we want to define these parameters. So change in H is heat available within the system. Yes. Now, how about your, what they call it, your TS or your T change in S? Now, this T change in S is called unavailable heat energy. So the T change in S is the unavailable heat energy. Why? That's the heat energy that is due to randomization. Remember that S stands for what? Entropy, disorderliness, right? So this energy is the energy unavailable. So the heat unavailable. They can ask you this thing. They can ask you, which of the following represents unavailable heat within the system? Unavailable heat within the system. The right change in A, the right T, the right change in S, the right T change in S. The T change in S is the heat unavailable. We'll see how we are going to apply this now. Heat unavailable, very, very key. Now that tells you that change in Gibbs free energy, and that's the definition I want us to have in mind in this case now, is simply the word useful energy. Useful energy available. Useful energy available. So the useful energy available for work is Gibbs free energy. How? This is the energy available in the system. This is the unavailable energy. So this energy is not there for the system to use. That means if you want to check the useful energy available, you just to remove this unavailable one from the total heat of the system, and that gives you the useful energy available for that system. All right, very, very good. Now, how does this come into play? Now we have temperature, right? Or in fact, we have there's something called transitional energies. Transitional temperatures, right? That's the temperature where phase change occurs. For instance, we know that fusion, which we will be looking at in terms of melting and freezing, these guys happen at what temperature? 0 degrees Celsius, based on your normal knowledge. And when phase change is going to happen, we know that there is this latent heat that usually does the whole thing. Very, very true. That does not change. We still use it here. Latent heat will come to play and cause the change in phase. So what are we trying to say? We're trying to say that we can have liquid at 0 degrees Celsius, and we can that for water, and we can also have ice. Are you there now? We can also have ice at 0 degrees Celsius. That's what I'm trying to say. Now the question there is, when you have liquid at 0 or ice at 0, how do we know where the phase change is going to be favoring? Is it going to be moving from that 0 degrees Celsius water to ice, or want to move from 0 degrees Celsius ice to water? Or if you are having the two of them at the same time, maybe ice inside water, is it going to move from the ice to the water phase, or from the water phase, that liquid phase, to the ice phase? Now, how you will know that is via thermodynamics. What I'm going to do here. Now, at 0 degrees Celsius, right? At 0 degrees Celsius, if you should impute 0 into this expression here, you'll get a change in G. If T is equal to 0, we'll get a change in G. is equals to change in heat. What does that tell you? All Gibbs free energy is available as useful energy. And in this case here, you will say that what? You will say that the phases are in equilibrium. The phases are in equilibrium. That's what you will note there. Now, how about when our temperature is less than 0 degrees Celsius? Or let's just use the word, our temperature is low. Temperature is low. We'll look at also when temperature is high. Are you getting me now? So if you look here, if your temperature is low, are you getting what I'm saying now? If your temperature is low, and let's say we are look at something, we are trying to study changing from ice to liquid. So changing of ice to liquid, you know, we said it happens at 0 degrees Celsius. Follow me now. Changing ice to liquid, that is solid to liquid. What's happening here? Is it increased entropy or decreased entropy? In this case here, we are having a what? In this situation here, we are having a positive entropy. We're having a positive entropy change. Entropy change is positive in this case. Yes. So we're having a positive entropy change, right? And this process here is endothermic. It's an endothermic process. So that means we're having a positive enthalpy change. We're already studying interconversions now. So positive entropy, positive enthalpy when you are moving from ice to liquid. But good, we are going to look at two things here now, because two things can either happen. It's either we are increasing the temperature or reducing the temperature. Now, when we have a decrease in temperature, maybe we reduce temperature, low temperature, what do we expect in this case? Are we going to be having a phase change? Like when you have this now, is this process here, this positive entropy, positive enthalpy with lowering the temperature, is it going to favor moving ice to liquid, or is it going to inhibit that movement of ice to liquid state? Before we say that, one thing you must know as a student is that a low Gibbs free energy, a low change in Gibbs free energy favors stability of states. This is the most important thing you should know in interconversions. A low Gibbs free energy usually will favor stability of states or phase. So phase stability is favored by low Gibbs free. So if you have two phase changes, maybe you know this is one phase change now, ice to liquid. I'm not done with it. I'm not done analyzing. And when we finish analyzing, we now notice that this ice liquid phase change under this condition is giving us a high Gibbs free energy. I get it now. It means that that phase change will not occur. That's the meaning. But if you do it using the analysis I'm going to use now, and you find out that the Gibbs free energy is a low parameter, it gives you a low Gibbs free energy, that means your Gibbs free energy is becoming more negative, then that phase change will occur. That's what we're trying to say. So let's look at it now. Let's continue from here now. So putting this inside here, positive, right? We're going to be doing basic analysis here. This one is what? Positive. And here we're having a very low temperature. That low temperature automatically does something. The fact that temperature is low, it automatically makes this parameter here low. Because it says heat unavailable. It makes this parameter low because the low number, if you are multiplying a low number with something, it results in a low product, right? So automatically this is the low parameter here. And if you minus this large parameter, if you minus this low parameter from this large parameter that is here, that is positive enthalpy, it gives you a what? It gives you a much higher Gibbs free. Let me repeat what I'm saying. Temperature now, we're saying we're looking at condition where temperature is low. Now temperature is low. You multiply a low number, maybe 0.0 something. You multiply the low number with enthalpy, with entropy. Automatically, you know the product will be a smaller number. Now, when you minus that smaller number from this big number, it will be higher compared with if this temperature was high. Because if this temperature was high, right, and you multiply, this will be a big number. By the time you do this number minus a big number, it will give you a lower Gibbs free, a lower change in Gibbs free. So a high change in Gibbs is favored by what now in this condition, under this situation? It's favored by what? It's favored by low temperature, right? Favored by low temperature. It's when we had low temperature that we had high Gibbs free. It's when we had what here now? High temperature that we had a low Gibbs free. Now, does it make sense? Do you not see the reason why you have to increase temperature? Do you see the reason why sometimes you need to increase temperature for this kind of phase changes to occur? Do you get the concept now? Because we said it earlier that you need low Gibbs free to favor stability of states. So automatically it's trying to let you understand that increasing temperature for this system, for this system where you have positive entropy and what? Positive enthalpy, increasing temperature will usually favor low Gibbs free, which is what we want. That will give stability to this kind of a process that we analyze. That means it wants ice to actually turn into liquid. So when they ask you in an exam and they are trying to tell you, it may be OBJ, increasing the temperature of a system moving from ice to liquid, either now increasing or reducing the temperature of a system moving from ice to liquid, either now or lowering the temperature of a system moving from ice to liquid will result in which of the following? The correct thing to just say, it will inhibit change of states. This change of states will not occur. That's the meaning. It will not happen. So for this kind of change of state to happen, we need what? A high temperature. That is very simple. Now the reverse is the case if we're moving from liquid to ice. Same thing for other kind of conversions. So it is very, very key you put this in mind. So what do we use to explain all these things? Gibbs free energy. What's the most important about the Gibbs free energy? Low Gibbs free energy favors stability of states. Low Gibbs free energy state favors the stability of state. Very, very, very simple. All right, let's go into this chart here. There's something I want to bring out here. Now, look at something. Density as a problem, because that's what they want to ask you. That's what they usually want to leverage on this chart. Density. Does the density of carbon dioxide increase whenever I move from liquid state to solid state, or decrease whenever I move from liquid state to solid state? That's the question. Now, many science students already have a preconceived generalized knowledge about density, that whenever a material is in solid state, it is automatically denser than liquid state. I don't know how this thing like that, because the last time we checked, ice used to float on water. For ice to float on water, it tells you that the density of ice, which is the solid form of water, is less dense than liquid state. And this is what we explain it to you. Watch. Alright. Around triple points here. Around triple points here, let's imagine that we are somewhere around here. That means we were at a pressure that was somewhere here and temperature around here. We don't need to know what that guy was, but somewhere there. And we stay fit at this temperature. We let this temperature remain a constant temperature, but what we do, we're increasing pressure. When we're increasing pressure, what do we say will start happening? Look at it. You're in liquid state now. When you increase pressure, what will start happening? Let me use a colored marker. Okay, let me use this. When you increase the pressure, the liquid state is moving like this, Abby, because I'm increasing pressure, going up. Pressure is going up. What happens at the point? The next thing you see that happens is that what? Liquid turned into what? Solid. So let me just put it like this. So liquid turned into solid when there was increase in pressure. Good. This increase in pressure that you see here, that you can now justify that for carbon dioxide, an increase in pressure turns it from liquid to gas. Meaning that what? Solid exists at what? For carbon dioxide. Solid exists at what? Higher pressure, right? While liquid exists at what? Lower pressure. Let's see how pressure relates to density. We know that density is equal to what? Mass over volume, right? So the lower the volume, the higher the density. And you know that volume is more about spaces. So if we reduce the spaces, what's going to be happening? If we reduce the spaces, it means we are bringing them together. They are going to be becoming more compact, right? And that is like you what? That's like you increasing the pressure. So automatically, what I'm trying to say is that whenever you increase pressure, you are increasing compactness by reducing volume. You are increasing compactness by reducing volume. And when you reduce volume, what have you done to density? You have increased density. Let's come back here now. So that tells you that for the fact that to move from liquid state to solid state for carbon dioxide, for the fact that we have to literally do what? For the fact that we have to literally increase pressure. And increase in pressure is what converts from liquid to solid, meaning that solid is at higher pressure and liquid is at lower pressure. It tells you that what? It tells you that the density of what? Of your solid carbon dioxide is higher than the density of liquid carbon dioxide. Very, very key. They will ask you in exams. They will tell you, explain why the density of solid carbon. They will tell you, using a phase diagram, explain why the density of solid carbon dioxide is greater than the density is this thing, because of the fact that what? That increase in pressure at constant temperature from liquids moves or changes the phase of liquid carbon dioxide into solid carbon dioxide. That's basically it. So you are saying that what now? You are saying that solid CO2, are you there now? Solid CO2, you are trying to say that solid CO2 has a what? Has higher density due to high pressure compared to liquid CO2. Come to this place. If I do that same thing I did there, maybe I take pressure. You know this one I have to take the temperature at the temperature that is above what they call it, triple points. Those are things you need to note. These things here are observable. For this carbon dioxide is observable at temperature that is greater than what? Triple point temperature. You can see I have to bring this to a condition where the temperature is greater than triple point temperature. But if I do the same thing here, I carry it to a temperature greater than triple point temperature, what will happen for water? The more you increase, say you make temperature constant. Say I make temperature constant now. The more you increase pressure, what is happening? It's still going to remain in the liquid state. So at temperature, what are you learning now? At temperature greater than triple point temperature for water, an increase in pressure will not change the states. I get you now. It's not going to change the state. You're going to remain in liquid. So because of the fact that you are not changing states, you're not going to be able to answer questions of liquid to density. Comparing the density of liquid and solid if you are using temperature greater than triple point temperature. So how can you observe the differences in density of solid and liquid for water? You have to go from a temperature that is less than the temperature of the triple point. So yeah. To observe that, you have to use temperature less than temperature of triple point for water. And what's happening there? Look at this. We move up like this. We move up. What are we saying? When you are at this temperature here, the more you increase pressure, what is going to be happening? You are entering into liquid phase. What does that tell you? You can see that it's because of this negative gradient that is like this, Abby. The negative gradient. It tells you that what? That the what do they call it? The pressure. At the temperature, it tells that at the temperature that is less than the triple point temperature, the pressure of liquid for water is greater than the what? Pressure of what? Solid. And what I tell you, pressure does. High pressure favors high compactness, favors low volume, which favors high density. Telling you that what? That the density of liquid water, thus the density of liquid water is greater than the density of ice. This explains why what? This explains why ice floats on water. It explains why ice floats on water. Because we know that for something to float, the less dense material has to be what? Up. So that is the explanation to that. You want to learn this. This is one thing that is important that I wrote here to explain this stuff. This stuff here. Very, very key. And what again do you want to take note of? For explaining density of the discrepancy between density of solid and liquid for water, you need to know that to do that you have to be at a temperature less than triple point. To do for carbon dioxide, you have to be at a temperature greater than what? Than triple point. Are you there now? So that one for that one is very key, very, very important, and they can ask you all these